Isekai is a genre of anime that gets a lot of bad rap. Historically, it's been called lazy, low effort, edgy, all the negative words that I totally agree with. But despite all the bad reputation, this genre has managed to give us gems like ReZero, Mushoku Tensei, Slime, and my personal favorite with zero haters, Konosuba. Konosuba is amazing, and that is something everyone will agree upon. Comedy is hilarious, characters are wild, and the voice acting fucking spectacular. But there are certain aspects of it that go overlooked. The sheer brilliance of its writing deserve more attention. So to understand it first, we need to take a look at the man behind the comedic genius of Konosuba. Yep, that's him, Chomusuke. Natsume Akatsuki. As a lot of you might already know that a lot of authors and mangaka keep their identities hidden for privacy reason, and that is totally reasonable. No one wants a crazy fan running after them just cause their favorite character is dead, and Natsume Sensei is one of such authors. So there is little to no information about him except this one interview and Wikipedia page. I also have no interest in digging someone's past except darkness. In 2012, Akatsuki Sensei entered his debut work, Dragon Tarahashi, for the 8th MF Bunko J Light Novel Rookie Awards, but it only made it to the second round. And if you are interested in reading it, you will be needing to learn Japanese first, cause there is no English translation of it. After that, he begins serializing Combatants Will Be Dispatched on August 19, 2012, which is my second favorite work of his after Konosuba. Akatsuki Sensei officially made his debut in light novel industry on October 1, 2013, with the first volume of Konosuba being published in book form. So these were the key moments of Natsume Sensei's career. Like I said, there is not much information to go on, but during the early years of his career, he changed his pen name quite often, and there could be many reasons for that like privacy and all, but I think he just couldn't settle on one. In his interview, he comes off as a shy person in real life, but very passionate about his work. His love for video games can be seen in his work, like all of them have RPG setting. He doesn't pre-plan about what he's going to write and how the characters will be, and likes to go with the flow. You can check out this interview if you are interested after the video, links will be in the description. Now let's get back to Konosuba. Everyone who watched Konosuba will agree on one thing, that the show is being carried by the ridiculous chemistry between the main gang. The asshole, the bitch, the meme, and the weirdo. Kazuma is a colossal dick who isn't afraid to sexually harass women, and he stands for true gender equality, so much so that he can even drop kick a woman. But despite being such a piece of shit, Kazuma is also a Chad. He is the perfect response to these generic blank-faced blobs, carbon copy main characters we usually see in Isekai. Kazuma was first introduced as a shy teen NEET who stopped attending school and spent the days locked in his room playing video games. The reason for that is really simple. With his rotten personality, he won't be able to survive for long in real world and will end up in jail because he stayed at a woman for far too long. When Kazuma was getting isekai'd, he thought this is it. He will finally live the life he thinks he deserves. A life of luxury in a fantasy world where he will one-shot every villain that comes his way and every waifu will fawn over him, but instead, he was slapped with reality. So, did he become insanely strong where nothing is interesting anymore? Nah, he's weak as a lamb chop. So he has to use his brain, strategy and tricks he learned while playing countless hours of video games. Is Kazuma dense and doesn't understand what's going around him? No, he's cultured and have self-awareness. He only does what will benefit him and won't threaten his life regardless of how important it may be. Is Kazuma a simp? No, he isn't, most of the time. But he's a huge pervert, the biggest one in Axel. So much so that everyone calls him Crapuma behind his back. Kazuma is a coward too. He's willing to turn away and run off his enemies, while apologizing almost in tears. And he will even use his party members as shield because his life matters. He usually gets carried away the moment things start to go his way, and seeing him get carried away and then slide back to reality the very next moment is the most hilarious thing. The biggest plus point of Kazuma is that he's clever enough to manipulate both his friends and enemies to make situations go his way, and he's grounded enough to understand his own abilities and people around him and make the best decision based on that. He also doesn't believe in crap like power of friendship, which is good. I can appreciate it. Kazuma usually complains about his party members and the harsh world he lives in, but he's a tsundere at heart. As while he pretends he doesn't care for his party, Kazuma grew attached to them, bending over backwards and sacrificing what is important for him and even his life for their well-being. All in all, Kazuma is a breath of fresh air amongst the main character of Isekai and a true Chad at that. Aqua is the root cause of all problem is a phrase we all know, but Kazuma is the only one who truly understands it. She was first introduced as an arrogant bitch, but after being forcefully dragged by Kazuma to the new world, her personality didn't change much, but only got worse cause now she's not just an arrogant bitch, but useless as well. Aqua is the exact opposite of what is expected of a goddess. Aside from being sloppy and ill-mannered, Aqua is often unfeeling and disrespectful, since she doesn't think before she speaks, and her IQ is below average room temperature, and her luck is so bad that she loses at rock paper scissors even after buffing her luck, because she doesn't know that 10 times 0 is still 0. She is absent-minded and forgetful. So much so that when she was throwing a tantrum about being dragged to the new world, she immediately forgot about it the moment Kazuma said he figured it out. Furthermore, she's a crybaby and oversensitive. But this is also not what Aqua is all about. She may be dim-witted, but she also have her moments where she acts cunning as well. Sometimes she even fake cries to get what she wants, which makes her a multi-dimensional character that doesn't solely rely on one trait or feature. But despite her pros and cons, Aqua is a very loyal friend who never once considered abandoning Kazuma even when she had to sleep in a stable right next to horse poop. She can be relied upon when it matters the most, like reviving Kazuma after one of his crazy plans, where dying is part of the strategy. Without her, Kazuma would be toast. She is so loyal that she refused Mitsurugi's offer of a comfortable life without a second thought, and was even willing to live as a fugitive when Kazuma was jailed. What more do you want from her, huh? And I love those Aqua moments where she thinks she did something smart, but the very next moment it comes back to bite her ass, and now she's the reason everyone in gang is in danger. I also have a picture of her butt hanging on my wall, and I bow in front of it once a day cause I'm thirsty for some holy water. Megumin is a little runt who I don't know how, but she always manages to steal the show. It doesn't matter how much efforts others put in or even if Kazuma dies trying. Last blow belongs to her. That's her birthright. Because she's the only one who can release big, thick and juicy explosions. She's the most popular character in all of Konosuba, and for good reason. Her personality is very easily likable and she's arguably the least incompetent out of all four, and that is saying a lot. Her biggest quirk is her Shinobi personality and her urge to release explosion magic. As a man, I can understand the urge to explode. The thing I like most about Megumin is her character design, which complements and enhances her character really wonderfully. One look and you will be able to tell what she is all about, like the eye patch she wears, which holds such tremendous power that it could obliterate the entire earth, and most definitely not just a cosmetic. She is the type of person who would fawn over a cute animal but will instantly kill it if it will give her a ton of experience points. The thing Megumin hates most is being treated like a child or called things like lolly or jailbait, because she's really sensitive about her appearance. Her entire existence is dependent on being carried by someone else after she fires off her spell. But her entire obsession with explosion and her Shinobi personality is not all there is to her, cause if that was the case then it would have gotten boring really quickly. But it only shows up during key moments, and during those moments explosion itself isn't necessarily the joke. Instead it depends on the scene and her personality, which results in a different joke every time. She can also act mature and understanding if the situation calls for it, although that isn't saying much. At the start of the series, Megumin was very self-centered as she only cared about herself and her little sister Komeko. Because of that, Megumin used to act like a tsundere, not admitting her feelings for those she cares about, like Yunyun and Kazuma, and being harsh with them. However, through the series, Megumin learned to care about those around her and started to openly express her feelings for her loved ones. And now she can say things like this. And if you still don't understand the greatness of Megumin, get this through your head. She has a spin-off series of her own, and a fun fact, she has a barcode birthmark on her butt. Darkness is a masochistic human punching bag who is only good for being a human meat shield, and she even gets off on that. At first glance, she looks like a beautiful gallant knight with a great sword, who could beat down every foe with a single swing of her sword, and that could be true only if she can connect. Her outside appearance is like a tourist scam. It looks good from far, but the moment you get closer to her, whenever there is a foe, you will find darkness in the forefront, taking the full force of enemy's assault. But as we all know, she's not doing this because of some noble reason like protecting everyone behind her. I mean, there is that, but only like 10%, and that's not her priority. Her priority lies in taking the hits, feeling the pain, enjoying it, and reaching euphoria. It is a dream to be captured by the Devil King's army and suffer all kinds of torture. And because of such perverted thoughts and fantasies, Darkness usually gets carried away in the heat of moment and starts acting without thinking, which creates problem for everyone around her. But despite being such a pervert, there are certain things that even she doesn't like mention of her weight and tough muscles. Knowing her personality, some of us might assume that she have been through a lot, but that is not the case. Darkness is a pure and innocent maiden at core, and she is also a firm believer of goddess Ares. But despite all the darkness, she also has some lightness to her as well, and that is the prim and proper Ojo-sama Lalatina. Before season 3, she was just there to get off in front of everyone and service all of us. But in season 3, we saw another side of her, and that was refreshing cause watching her being horny all the time was getting boring. In season 3, we saw a more feminine side of Darkness, which is Lalatina, who is selfless and caring, sacrificing her entire wealth for the well-being of others, which showed another side of her, of which most of us were not aware of or we simply did not care about before season 3. And it genuinely made me realize that she could be a perfect waifu if we forget about the masochistic part, if that's not your thing that is. And she have a lot of potential as a character, which needs to be developed further, rather than showing us the same two sides of her. But I know that won't be happening, and I just hate internet sometimes. All of their personalities have a lot of flaws, but it goes very well when they are together. Their personalities feel as if they are made for each other, and even if one of them would go missing, it just wouldn't feel right or complete. Their personalities bounces off each other perfectly, which shows just how comfortable they are around each other, and they can be themselves without the fear of being judged. And the chemistry between these four is just the best thing ever. They genuinely feel like friends. They are total idiots, but that's what makes it work. They are a dysfunctional group of morons who make you feel like you are part of the group just by watching them. And they are not afraid to insult each other to their faces or get mad at them and pull on their cheeks and call out each other's flaws. And there never isn't any hard feelings, and you can watch them for hours doing just this and it wouldn't get old. And the reason for that is really simple, cause this feels real. This is how friends in real life interact with each other, and the fact the writer was able to portray it so well is really amazing. Comedy is one of the most subjective things out there. There is not a single joke that every person will laugh at and get. The joke your grandpa likes, you won't like it, and the joke you will laugh at, your grandpa will react to it something like this.
You alright?
A joke can be funny depending on many things like race, religion, time, context, nationality, and blah blah. I understood it best while watching Gintama. There are so many jokes, gags, and punchline in it that only a person from Japan will understand it or find it funny. And if you are from outside, you will miss the joke cause you are not familiar with the inner workings of Japan, and you don't know their history, and you don't know what goes down at ground level. But Konosuba is an anime that breaks that norm for me. To understand the jokes in Konosuba, you don't need prior information of the context to laugh at it, and you can enjoy it from the get-go as long as you know a little bit about isekai and RPG, and even that isn't necessary in my opinion. What makes the comedy of Konosuba tick at its core is the cast of characters. With their quirky personalities, get thrown into different scenarios and watch them interact with each other, which brings forth the joke, because it's them, they are the joke. It's their dynamic and chemistry which carries the comedy in the show. Their personalities are based on a very simple concept of parody, in which you take a well-known character trait and completely flip it on its head, or alternatively you crank it up so much that it becomes outright ridiculous. So how do you make a typical isekai's all-powerful paragon of justice protagonist interesting? You turn him into a pessimistic man with no powers whatsoever. What about the healer? Useless. The valiant knight? Masochistic pervert. And lastly, what about the mage? And now take these characters and combine them with sharp and witty dialogues, top-notch jokes, immaculate comedic timing, animation that makes fun scene even funnier. I like the art style in manga or light novel, but I prefer the art style they used in anime much more. And lastly, voice acting so good that it makes the most random conversation seem fun and interesting. They could be talking about grass and it'll still be funny. And after combining all of these elements together, you have cooked up a recipe so hard that there are fools in world who have nothing better to do with their life, willing enough to write, record and edit a 15-minute long video on it. Fuck, that's me. Watching 4 of them do their thing is good, but when you add side characters like these, it becomes even better. There are so many characters in Konosuba who appear for very little screen time, yet they leave such an impression on us that we want to know more about them. Him for example, he shows up here and there, throws a punchline and acts cool for a few seconds, yet somehow we all know him. We don't know his name, yet we still know him, right? One other example I can give you is Dust and his party. Of course, if you are anime only, you don't know much about them, so let me tell you. Dust is the guy who introduced the succubus parlor to Kazuma. Rin, Keith and Taylor are other members of his party. So there is a whole chapter in light novel where Kazuma and Dust swap their parties. During their adventure, Kazuma, using his wits and strategy, left such an impression on Rin and others that they actually wanted Kazuma to replace Dust. And if you are wondering how Kazuma knows Rin in this scene, here is your answer. This whole escapade was really interesting, and watching Kazuma surrounded by normal people brought tears to my eyes. I would have preferred seeing this chapter get animated over the Winter Shogun episode any day. If you want to read this chapter, tell me down in the comments, I will give you the link. So these were a few examples of side characters who only appear for a very limited time yet left quite an impression on me. Other side characters everyone knows and loves are Yunyun, a girl so sweet and innocent that she must be protected at all cost. Wiz, an undead lich who is 100% legal, hotter than darkness, cute and better maze than Megumin, more useful than Aqua, owns a shop, racking huge cash with the Chad all-seeing demon Vanir. I just love the relationship these three share with the main gang. Aqua and Vanir acts like those annoying cousins. Megumin loves to tease Yunyun yet genuinely cares about her. Kazuma protects Wiz from Aqua's antics. And not just these three, there are so many other side characters who expand the horizon of comedy in Konosuba. And just watching them interact with each other is really fun. Really great. Season 3 of Konosuba is how everyone expected it to be. The humor in this season was brilliant. They didn't just took jokes from light novel but also added their own flair to it. First episode was kinda sappy and did not make me laugh much. But next episode is where things got interesting. Iris dragging Kazuma with her was really unexpected to me, and after that it was really fun watching Kazuma get addicted on the high life and not wanting to go back. During this arc we were missing the complete gang, but it was fine. It didn't felt boring even for a second, and it was refreshing seeing Kazuma being a pain in someone else's butt, because it's him at the receiving end most of the time. We also saw some progression of darkness other than just her only side. The other girls definitely took a backseat this season, except for La Latina, and you won't find me complaining about it. Megumin recently had a spin-off and Aqua is too damn drunk to get a development. The highlight of this season for me is when Kazuma got serious and was in his top condition and showed everyone that he's not the weakest. I was just giggling like crazy during this entire scene. And season 3 even got a little darker in the last episode, which we usually don't see in comedy anime, so it caught me off guard. Other than that, season 3 is pretty similar to other seasons in terms of comedy and banter. It's been over a month since Konosuba season 3 ended, and I was expecting an announcement for the next season right after. But that didn't happen, and as we all know, it took them like 5 years to release season 3 despite the massive popularity of Konosuba. We still haven't heard anything about the next season, which means it's very unlikely that we will see a new season soon. But don't worry, you don't have to touch grass or anything. If you can't wait that long and just want to know what happens next, I recommend you read light novel. It's not like manga is bad, it's just light novel is that good. I know it's difficult to get into at first if you don't like reading at all, but the amount of details you will find in light novel you won't get anywhere else, and the rest is up to your imagination. You can animate it inside your brain in whatever quality you want. I personally like 4K. Konosuba is an anime that is very close to my heart because it put a smile on my face when I was in deep down slums during the pandemic. So you will never find me talking bad about it, but at the same time you will never find me saying it's a perfect anime. It still has flaws, it gets repetitive and have too much fan service, but I guess that's not a bad thing, and a few other things which I forgot. But despite all this, it's still enjoyable to watch, and if you are a dick who doesn't find it funny, even someone like you would have to agree that it's still entertaining to watch. Every ridiculous adventure these four go on, or every new character they meet, trials and inconvenience follow them, yet they make it through together by filling in the holes each other have. And after a lot of effort, somehow they manage to get the job done in the end, like a cart with wobbly wheels which left home to work, wondering if it will even come back home in one piece. And when it does, it gives a feeling of fulfillment. Because you don't abandon someone for their flaws, you stand right next to them and help them get through it. And that's what these four do for each other, regardless of the problems and trouble they create for each other, or every victory or romance. It means something to each and every one of them in their own way, and they wouldn't have it any other way. And so do we. So this was the reason behind the comedic genius of Konosuba. There are still quite a few things that I want to talk about, but not in this one. Probably a part 2 in the future if you guys enjoyed this one. But what do I know? I'm just a tiny YouTube channel with like 400 subs who's trying to make funny and entertaining videos. And there are few people who think that I'm doing good. And if you think that as well, make sure to subscribe and show some support. And you can also watch these two videos as well. I think they are good. And that's it for now. See you in the next one.